Hey, how are you? Um, I was online last night looking at just various video streams. It's what I do a lot. I am a online news junkie, especially with the online left for the most part. But I can keep up with it all. Well, I want to thank Sahill Habibi, known as Progressive Voice, for showing me something. He didn't show it personally, but he did a video on Tulsi Gabbard that I upon finding out about it, I was like more offended than I've been previously, and I've been very offended by Tulsi Gabbard lately. Now, the thing about it is, I am not only bothered by the right wing grift of Tulsi Gabbard, I but I try to find an explanation for it. One, I think she is a natural grifter, but I also think that she accidentally picked up a fan base by more right leaning people and some people on the left and the fake left, the corporate Democrats and actual leftists. I would say pretty much the most corporate Democrats and probably about half the left who were familiar with her decided to treat her like shit. And I think that maybe a combination of this, her growing receptiveness by the right, along with the way that the left and fake left mistreated her, she kind of painted herself into a corner. And and I said this in another video before that she's basically she was basically a standard Democrat. I wouldn't call her a corporate Democrat. I wouldn't call her a corporate Democrat like Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and I wouldn't call her a progressive way supposedly someone like AOC or Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib or Ayanna Presley would be. But I did consider her at one time the unofficial member of the squad. And I mean, she's actually taken some very far left votes over the years. I mean, voting with AOC and Ro Khanna on legislation like PAYGO. I mean, it was a sign that she was serious about Medicare for all until we found out that her Medicare for all plan was no different from the other Democrats running. Basically, it was Pete Buttigieg's health care plan, well, without it calling it the Peter Buttigieg plan. But I'm kind of going all over the place with this. So I'm just kind of giving you a background information when it comes to Tulsi Gabbard. And this is what I got to do here. Hold tight. There's a reason for this. Because I'm about ready to go into what I need to talk about. And the thing about it is that Tulsi Gabbard's been, she's been attacked with Russian collusion by Hillary Clinton. And I'm going to still defend her on the Russian collusion. It's not the case. She was right to sue Hillary Clinton for $50 million. She was wrong to drop the damn lawsuit. She was tied in with Assad of Syria, Bashir al-Assad. And the thing about it is, that's not true either. Yes, she did talk to Bashir al-Assad. But no, I do not think that she blesses the Assad regime. Unless you think that the other side trying to topple Assad would be considered good guys. In that regard, even I would be pro-Assad. Because if Assad is toppled, what's going to take over Syria would be Al Qaeda or ISIS or some other fundamentalist groupings. And so, in that regard, I will defend her on Assad. To an extent, I'm going to still defend her on the LBGTQ accusations, the anti-LBGTQ accusations, because she grew up in a socially conservative Hindu household, and that's what she couldn't help with what kind of environment she grew up in. I do believe that when she joined the military and she kind of evolved on the LBGTQ question. Well, I'm going to say the LBG question, and I'm going to tell you why I omitted the T part in a second. She basically evolved on the lesbian, gay, bisexual issue in the same way that Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden and Barack Obama did. So any accusations about her bigotry on that front would be no different from, basically accusing other corporate Democrats of that. The anti-Muslim thing, now I do think in hindsight there might have been a little bit of truth to that. Half truth. And that her ties with Modi of India, well, Neera Tanden and Kamala Harris are also tied with Modi as well. And yeah, she's a Hindu. She probably have Hindu nationalistic tendencies. But, maybe I need to rethink what I said about her being anti-Muslim, because if she would have stuck on her anti-war shtick that she was on, I could have made an argument she was not anti-Muslim. But with her recent interview on Tucker Carlson over talking about drone strikes and Islamism, the rhetoric that's being used, that sounded like we're back in the year 2002. Maybe some of these people were right after all these people who were criticizing Tulsi Gabbard. And for that, I apologize to y'all for all the times that I was defending Tulsi Gabbard. I was a fool to believe what I wanted to believe about her. I projected a lot of good things about her that weren't really there. So, I want to bring it to this point that the grift, not being on Tucker Carlson, being on Tucker Carlson is not grifting or anything like that. I have no problem with her being on Tucker Carlson. If Bernie Sanders can be on Tucker Carlson, she can be on Tucker Carlson. I don't have a problem with her doing that. I had a problem with her choosing Biden over Bernie Sanders. That was a major strike right there against her. And when she was exiting Congress, her co-sponsoring with a Republican member of Congress anti-transgender legislation. That's why I omitted the T earlier, because she went and to push for for legislations that would actually discriminate against transgender women from sports. I was trying to justify it, saying, "Well, she's a liberal turf." No, she's not. She's just she's anti-trans, and she's a bigot all through and through. And I told you about the neocon, born-again neocon sentiment that she has, and that neocon sentiment of favoring bombings and favoring a Bush-Cheney-like response to the war on terror. That sort of thing, that kind of pissed me off. And then, while I do not wish death on anybody, when Rush Limbaugh when his cancer was terminal, and it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to die from this cancer, she said, "I'm going to get well card." Now, I despise Rush Limbaugh, but I wouldn't want him to die. I don't want anybody to die, not even people that I despise. And I despise Rush Limbaugh. But I'm not the kind of person that's going to wish death on people that I politically disagree with. But I'd be damned if I'm going to go and give Rush Limbaugh a get well card. I'm not going, I can mourn for those who are dying and suffering. Doesn't mean that I have to go and love them and respect them. I mean, when Jesse Helms died in 2008, I didn't take delight over his death, but I certainly, when on a talk show, I certainly talk a lot of shit about him on a talk show, and people are like, "You're rude for talking mean about about somebody that just died." And Jesse Helms was one of the most toxic people politically around at that time. So I mean, but here's where I am extremely angry with Tulsi Gabbard. I found out apparently 2 years ago, and Progressive Voice, thank you, Sahill Habibi, for letting us know about this, because I didn't know this. I would have probably said that Tulsi Gabbard needed to fuck off if I would have known about this 2 years ago. Apparently, Tulsi Gabbard had no problem with George W. Bush and Ellen DeGeneres being buddy-buddy. Now, I don't like Ellen DeGeneres. I don't like most people in Hollywood. Most people in Hollywood are fake-ass liberals, fake-ass progressives, and they think that, they just think that being a good tolerant person, fuzzy-wuzzy, good vibes, and this sort of fake love for tolerance is a sign of being progressive. And for those who talk about the Hollywood left, there's no Hollywood left. Sorry. They're not, a lot of the so-called Hollywood left are basically akin to being corporate Democrats. So, but the thing about it is, Ellen DeGeneres is a lesbian. George W. Bush was a culture warrior during his presidency against legality and marital equality, basically being opposed to same-sex marriage. And the thing about it is, George W. Bush, whether he really believed in it deep down or not, and I'm going to make a guess that he didn't have a problem with the LBGTQ community on a personal level, but he's a Republican, and he's got to placate to the Republican right-wing base, the crowd that hates the LBGTQ community. And the thing about it is that, as far as he was concerned, he was going to throw people like Ellen DeGeneres under the bus for his political support base. And that makes him awful. That makes him a piece of shit. And Ellen DeGeneres is going to go and be buddy with him and all of that. Self-respect, lady. Self-respect. Sort of like Dave Rubin having Ben Shapiro on his show, and I really believe that Dave Rubin wanted to be friends with Ben Shapiro. I don't know Dave Rubin personally. I don't know Ben Shapiro personally. But when I saw that a few years ago, I sort of got the notion that Dave Rubin wanted to be friends with Ben Shapiro. And Ben Shapiro basically, in a very polite way, expressed his homophobia on a level toxic in comparison to someone like a John Hagee or a Pat Robertson or a Jerry Falwell or someone of that nature, or the late Bob Enyart. And for that, I'm just like, dude, have some fucking self-respect. Same thing with Ellen DeGeneres. Have some fucking self-respect. Not only, not just the LBGTQ question, but here's another reason why George W. Bush needed to be canceled. Because at the end of the day, he's a war criminal. He is responsible for the murder of 231,000 people in Afghanistan. He is the reason for the murder of 1 million people in Iraq. He is the reason why tens of thousands of American troops who had no say being forced to go into these ghoulish neocon wars abroad. The man is a war criminal, and he should be put in The Hague for his crimes against humanity. And, and I know some people will be like, yeah, he seems to beat on him more than he beats on Donald Trump. Damn right, because you know why? We have a Donald Trump in the last 4 years because of George W. Bush. Everything that's been awful about this country in the last 20 years can be traced back to George W. Bush. So, yes, and I do admit, George W. Bush, I despise George W. Bush more than I do despise Donald Trump. Donald Trump, I despise him the way I despise any other president. And I do think all presidents fucking suck as a general rule. The last president that was halfway decent was Jimmy Carter. He was not going to be a pawn of the military-industrial complex. Which I would say with Joe Biden, and I mean, he's probably the best president since Jimmy Carter, only because of the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Now, he's still terrible in other foreign policy. He's still serving the interests of the military-industrial complex and the neocon warlike consensus of Washington, D.C. from both parties. But he's getting a lot of shit. He's getting a lot of shit for the one thing he's done right, which was to pull out of Afghanistan. And the things they're saying about Joe Biden, like it was a terrible thing that he pulled out of Afghanistan. No, it was the fucking best thing. It should have been done. It should have been done a long time ago. But the point I'm trying to make, when it comes to people like Ellen DeGeneres and George W. Bush, they got more money than anybody would ever imagine having. And the thing about it is that George W. Bush and Ellen DeGeneres, they will always have health care, the best health care available to them. They would not have to go hungry, or they would not have to go and suffer the way that the poor and the working class and the middle class, and to quote Nina Turner, and the barely middle class. The way things are these days, they don't have to go through that. They couldn't even begin to relate to that. And so, anyway, that's what I want to say about this whole thing. And this is why I'm against Tulsi Gabbard now. I have one more reason why I have turned against Tulsi Gabbard. And she's grifted. I used to not believe that she was trying to get a job for Fox News. But it's turning out to be that's probably what she'll end up doing. She'll end up being on Fox News, and you know, just it's just terrible. I mean, you know, just I mean, it's terrible what's happened. You know, I mean, she threw. I mean, you think about it. When she ran for president in 2020. Probably about a half of her supporters were Bernie Sanders supporters from 2016. She threw the left under the bus for what she did and to bolster her career. And she made some folks on the online left who are decent people look foolish because there she was. She was trying to go and campaign as this anti-war progressive that was against the military-industrial complex and against the Bush-Cheney foreign policy. And all of a sudden, she's starting to sound like John Bolton overnight. I mean, good Lord. I mean, you know. So, you know, one more reason to despise Tulsi Gabbard. Anyway, as I said, I'm going to leave a link of the article, and I'm going to leave a link for Progressive Voice as well, because he's got a good channel, and my policy is, with regard to the online left, is to promote the online left, because we all need to help each other to boost our algorithms, because they're going after the left. The right wing complains about censorship against them. Let me put it this way: the YouTube, there's a greater chance of YouTube pulling down The Amazing Atheist, pulling down Kyle Kulinski, pulling down Jimmy Dore than they would pulling down Ben Shapiro or Prager University or Steven Crowder. I mean, they have gone after the left. Yeah, they shut down Alex Jones to make an example, but they have also fucked with people on the left too. They have fucked with the Combo Couch, for example. So, and I just found out that Nico House has actually been suspended from YouTube, is what I heard recently. So anyway, this is what's been going on. And, you know, Tulsi Gabbard going, you know, with her grift. I mean, George W. Bush is an abomination. So anyway, if you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you disagree with what I have to say, well, comment anyway. We'll have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are, in fact, the muckrakers of our time. Feel, go ahead, also subscribe, hit that notification bell. And until next time, peace and class struggle. And let's have an end to these damn neocon wars. Enough already with this shit for the last 20 years.